Your Majesty, she said, offering a respectful bow to Queen Mother Obsidian's hologram. Admiral Storm, Ambassador Blackwater. She glanced at Prince Vex and smiled. Fiancé. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Finn watched the various officials exchange glances, calculating political implications and personal reactions in equal measure. Commander Phoenix. Admiral Storm's voice was carefully controlled. Before we proceed any further, I need your honest assessment. Is this a genuine romantic attachment or a tactical maneuver? Zara looked at Prince Vex, who nodded slightly. Sir, when I made the proposal, it was primarily tactical. But after spending time with Prince Vex, I can honestly say the romantic component is very real. And you, Your Highness? Queen Mother Obsidian asked her son. The same, Mother. What began as intrigue has become genuine affection. Commander Phoenix challenges me intellectually and shares my desire for a peaceful resolution to this conflict. Sage Moonveil stepped forward, his robes rustling with what sounded like disapproval. Your Majesties, while the emotional compatibility appears favorable, there remain significant cultural and legal obstacles. Netherian royal marriage law requires— I'm aware of our laws, Sage Moonveil, Queen Mother Obsidian interrupted. I helped write half of them. The question is whether they serve our current needs. With respect, Your Majesty, Captain Ironwood interjected. Our needs include ending a war that's been bleeding both our civilizations dry for 3 years. If this marriage can accomplish that, maybe we should be asking how to make it work, not whether it's traditionally proper. An excellent point, said a new voice from the chamber's rear entrance, though I suspect the path forward may be more complex than any of you imagine. Everyone turned to see a figure that seemed to have stepped out of ancient legend. Oracle Whisperwind was old even by Netherian standards, her silver skin marked with the deep blue tattoos that indicated a lifetime of mystical service. She moved with the aid of a staff that seemed to be carved from crystallized light, and her eyes held the distant look of someone who saw far more than the present moment. Oracle Whisperwind, Prince Vex said, his voice carrying both respect and surprise. I didn't expect you to travel this far from the sanctuary. The threads of fate have been disturbed, young prince. When the future shifts as dramatically as it has today, those who read the patterns must take notice. She turned those ancient eyes toward Zara. And you, Commander Phoenix, have pulled on threads that reach back centuries. I'm sorry. Zara looked confused. I just proposed to end a war. I didn't think I was messing with destiny. Oracle Whisperwind smiled, and the expression transformed her ancient face. Child, the greatest changes in history often begin with someone who just does something extraordinary without realizing its full significance. She moved to the center of the chamber, her staff tapping against the floor with crystalline chimes. I have spent the last 6 hours in deep meditation, consulting the probability matrices and ancestral memories. What I found is remarkable. Don't keep us in suspense, Admiral Storm said dryly. This union was prophesied. Not specifically. The ancient texts speak only of 2 hearts from distant stars, whose bond would end the age of fire and shadow. But the timing, the circumstances, the very nature of your connection. She looked between Zara and Prince Vex. This is no coincidence. Dr. Starweaver leaned forward eagerly. Are you saying this marriage was destined? I am saying that some possibilities have deeper roots than others. And this possibility has roots that reach into the very foundation of both our species' histories. Finn felt a headache building behind his eyes. Oracle, with all due respect, prophecies are fascinating from an anthropological perspective. But we need practical solutions. Can this marriage legally take place? Will both governments recognize it? And if so, what are the terms? Queen Mother Obsidian's hologram flickered as she consulted with advisors outside the projection range. The Netherian Empire would recognize such a union, provided proper ceremonies are observed and compatibility requirements are met. The Federation would need congressional approval for any military officer to marry foreign royalty, Admiral Storm added. But given the potential for ending this war, I suspect we could fast-track the process. Then we have a framework, Finn said. feeling like he was trying to build a bridge while standing on quicksand. But there are still enormous practical considerations. Where would you live? What would your roles be? How would this actually end the war? Prince Vex and Zara exchanged glances. We've discussed this, Zara said. The marriage would establish a formal alliance between our peoples. I would retain my commission but serve as a cultural liaison. Prince Vex would work with Federation, diplomats to establish trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. And children? Queen Mother Obsidian asked bluntly. Both Zara and Prince Vex blushed. An interesting sight, given that Netherian blushing involved their skin's luminescent markings, brightening significantly. Mother, Prince Vex said with the tone of someone who'd had this conversation before. Perhaps we could discuss family planning after we've actually had the wedding. Practical considerations, Dr. Starweaver said excitedly. Cross-species. Reproduction is theoretically possible with Netherians, though the genetic compatibility would need to be verified. The offspring would likely have enhanced characteristics from both species. Doctor, Finn interrupted. While fascinating, let's focus on the immediate crisis. We have 2 fleets still pointing weapons at each other, political pressure from multiple governments, and a media storm that's growing by the hour. Oracle Whisperwind tapped her staff against the floor, creating a sound like distant bells. Perhaps I can offer a solution that addresses multiple concerns. Everyone turned to her expectantly. In ancient times, when great alliances were forged between Netherian houses, there was a ceremony called the Starbridge Ritual. It would publicly demonstrate the genuine nature of this bond while providing both sides with the assurance they require. What kind of ritual? Zara asked suspiciously. Nothing harmful, child. It is a test of trust and compatibility conducted before witnesses from both cultures. If successful, it would provide proof that this union serves the greater good rather than hidden agendas. Prince Vex nodded slowly. I remember reading of such ceremonies. They were considered binding proof of alliance intentions. And if they fail the test? Captain Ironwood asked. Oracle Whisperwind shrugged, a gesture that somehow managed to be both casual and profound. Then perhaps this path was not meant to be, and we must find another way to peace. Finn looked around the chamber at the assembled officials, military officers, and royalty. 3 hours ago, his biggest concern had been a trade dispute over synthetic coffee exports. Now he was apparently organizing an ancient mystical ceremony to validate an interspecies royal wedding that might end a 3-year war. All right, he said finally. Let's do it. But I want full diplomatic immunity for everyone involved, medical teams on standby, and a backup plan in case this goes sideways. Ambassador, Oracle Whisperwind said with that ancient smile, has any great love story ever gone according to plan? As the various officials began making arrangements for what would undoubtedly be the most unconventional diplomatic ceremony in galactic history, Zara found herself standing next to Prince Vex near the chamber's viewport. Outside, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, unchanged by the small drama playing out in their shadow. Any second thoughts? She asked quietly. Several thousand, he admitted. But none that change my mind. You? I keep thinking I should be more terrified than I am. I mean, I proposed to an alien prince I'd never met. That's the kind of thing that should keep someone awake at night. And yet it feels right. Like all the chaos and craziness led to something that was supposed to happen. She glanced at him. Is that weird? Prince Vex took her hand, and she felt that familiar electric tingle of Netherian bioenergy. If it is, then we are weird together, and I find I prefer that to being sane alone. Behind them, the diplomatic machinery of 2 civilizations ground into motion, working to transform a moment of battlefield madness into the foundation for lasting peace. Whether they would succeed remained to be seen, but for the first time in 3 years, both sides had reason to hope for something better than endless war, and in the quiet space between the stars and the storm of politics, 2 people from different worlds held hands and planned for a future that neither of them could have imagined a day before. Sometimes, Zara reflected, the best diplomacy really was just a matter of having the courage to say what everyone else was afraid to think, even if you had to shout it over laser fire to be heard. Love in the time of laser fire ambassador. Finn Blackwater had handled diplomatic crises before. Trade disputes that threatened to collapse entire sectors. Territorial conflicts that had nearly sparked interstellar wars. Even the infamous Great Mushroom Incident that had somehow involved 3 species and a sentient fungal collective. But nothing in his 30-year career had prepared him for this. "Let me get this straight," he said, rubbing his temples as he stared at the holographic display showing both human and Netherian fleets still locked in their bizarre standoff. "One of our commanders proposed marriage to an alien prince in the middle of active combat. He said yes, and now both sides are demanding we figure out what happens next?" Captain Rex Ironwood, the grizzled military liaison assigned to the Diplomatics Corps, nodded grimly. "That's about the size of it, Ambassador. And it gets worse. Apparently they're both serious about it." Finn looked around the emergency diplomatic station that had been hastily assembled on the neutral world of Haven's Rest. The facility was buzzing with activity as translators, legal experts, and cultural advisors tried to make sense of an unprecedented situation. Through the viewport, he could see both human and Netherian ships maintaining careful distances while shuttle after shuttle delivered officials to what was rapidly becoming the most important diplomatic gathering in galactic history. "Have you spoken with Commander Phoenix since her proposal?" Finn asked. "Briefly," Ironwood replied, his expression suggesting he'd rather have faced a firing squad. "She seems remarkably calm for someone who just turned interstellar diplomacy upside down. Claims she knows exactly what she's doing." "And Prince Vex?" "Equally composed. His advance team arrived an hour ago, along with half the Netherian royal court. They've set up in the East Wing and are apparently conducting some kind of formal compatibility assessment." Finn blinked. "A what now?" "Netherian marriage customs," explained Dr. Luna Starweaver, the expedition's xenoanthropologist, as she approached, with an armload of research tablets. "It's fascinating, actually. They don't just marry individuals, they marry entire family lines. There are compatibility tests, genetic assessments, psychological evaluations, and something called a soul resonance reading that I'm still trying to understand. Please tell me the humans don't have equally complicated requirements," Finney said weakly. "Actually," Dr. Starweaver continued with the enthusiasm of someone who lived for exactly this kind of cultural complexity, "human military marriage protocols are surprisingly straightforward by comparison. Background checks, psychological evaluation, approval from commanding officers, and a standard prenuptial agreement regarding classified information. So we're looking at weeks of bureaucracy before we even know if this is legally possible," Ironwood observed. "Weeks we don't have," Finn said, watching another shuttle dock with the station. "The news feeds picked this up 6 hours ago. Half. The galaxy is calling it the romance of the century. The other half thinks it's an elaborate spy plot. If we don't get ahead of this story, it's going to spiral completely out of control." As if summoned by his words, the station's communication array chimed with an incoming priority transmission. The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing a figure that made everyone in the room instinctively straighten their shoulders. Queen Mother Obsidian of the Netherian Empire was exactly as imposing as the intelligence report suggested. 8 feet tall, with the characteristic silver skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. She wore ceremonial armor that looked like it had been forged from crystallized starlight. Her eyes were the deep purple of nebula cores, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to reshaping reality through sheer force of will. "Ambassador Blackwater," she said, somehow managing to make his name sound both regal and vaguely threatening. "I trust you understand the significance of recent events." "Your Majesty," Finn replied, grateful for all those diplomatic protocol classes. "We're working to establish a framework for addressing this unprecedented situation." Unprecedented, yes, but not unwelcome. The Queen Mother's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "My son has shown remarkable judgment in his choice of potential mate. Commander Phoenix possesses qualities that would strengthen our royal lineage." Finn glanced at Ironwood, who looked like he was questioning every decision that had led to this moment. Your Majesty, while we appreciate your perspective, there are significant legal and political considerations, which is why I am here personally, Queen Mother Obsidian interrupted. This union, if properly conducted, could serve the interests of both our peoples. The war has been costly for all involved. Before Finn could respond, another hologram flickered to life beside the first. Admiral Storm of the Terran Federation, Fleet Command, appeared, his weathered face set in the kind of expression that suggested someone was about to have a very bad day. Your Majesty, he said with the bare minimum of required courtesy before turning to Finn. Ambassador, I need to know right now if we're dealing with a genuine diplomatic opportunity, or if one of my officers has lost her mind. Admiral Storm, Queen Mother Obsidian inclined her head slightly. How refreshing to encounter direct communication. Your Commander Phoenix has indeed presented us with a genuine opportunity. An opportunity for what? Peace? Or the perfect intelligence operation? The Queen Mother's laugh was like wind chimes made of razor blades. Admiral, if we wished to conduct espionage, we would hardly announce it through a marriage proposal broadcast across 3 star systems. Dr. Starweaver stepped forward, her excitement barely contained. Actually, this could be incredibly beneficial for both cultures. Interspecies unions have historically led to significant advances in technology, art, and social development. The genetic diversity alone. We're not planning a breeding program, Doctor. Admiral Storm cut her off. We're trying to figure out if this is going to end the war or start a bigger one. Perhaps, suggested a new voice from the station's entrance. You should ask the parties directly involved. Everyone turned to see Prince Vex Night Whisper entering the diplomatic chamber, followed by his advisor Sage Moonveil and 3 other Netherian officials Finn didn't recognize. The prince moved with the fluid grace characteristic of his species, but there was something different about his demeanor, a quiet confidence that seemed almost human. Your Highness, Queen Mother Obsidian's hologram flickered as she turned toward her son. I trust your preliminary evaluation has been satisfactory? More than satisfactory, Mother. Commander Phoenix is remarkable. As if summoned by the mention of her name, Zara Phoenix entered the chamber from the opposite direction, accompanied by Lieutenant Morrison and 2 other human officers. She'd traded her flight suit for a formal diplomatic uniform, but her hair was still refusing to cooperate with military regulations, and she moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd already made peace with the chaos she'd created.